Hi, it's Gary Rubinstein. So I'm doing this series of videos about mental math. I think there's about six of these. There will be. And they build up slow, but they will result at the end with doing three-digit by three-digit multiplication in your head. And just giving you a lot of little tricks of doing math along the way. Um, an important thing in math is um, being able to double things and take half of them. And to do that, you pretty much just need to know the times tables. Whoops, usually goes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And if you multiply, if you double 0, you still get 0. And you get 2 times 2 is 4, and 3 times 2 is 6, and 4 times 2 is 8, and 5 times 2 is 10, 6 times 2 is 12, and 7 times 2 is 14, and 8 times 2 is 16, and 9 times 2 is 18. So those facts, and also being able to go in the opposite direction. Half of 8 is 4, and half of 14 is 7. And most people know those pretty well. So if you have to do something like, 27 times 2, standard multiplication algorithm is something like this. 2 times 7 is 14, carry the 1, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. But in mental math, it's better to do it from left to right, to kind of think of it as first do 20 times 2. I'm even going to write it down like this. So first we do 20 times 2, which is 40. And then we add on to the 40, 7 times 2, which is 14. And 40 plus 14 is 54. So being able to double things, you could actually double also, 39 times 2. You could think of it as 39 plus 39, which you could do as 30 plus 30 is 60. Add to it, 9 plus 9 is 18. 60 plus 18 is 78. Or if you like, 30 times 2 is 60. Plus 9 times 2 is 18. Either way. You could even, instead of treating 30 as 30 plus 9 times 2, that's what I did here. You could actually, noticing that 39 is pretty close to 40, we could think of it as 40 minus 1 times 2, which is 40 times 2 minus 1 times 2. Either way, you're going to get 78. So that's doubling. Now, halving is also going to be an important skill. And I'm going to do just two-digit numbers for now. So like 48 divided by 2. Well, you could also go from left to right. 40 divided by 2 is 20, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. But that method might seem to break down a little bit when you see something like 58 divided by 2. Or what if I were to say even just 50 divided by 2? Well, 50 divided by 2 is 25. So when it ends in a 0, if this first number is odd, it's a little bit complicated. 40 divided by 2, because the 4 is even, is just 20. But 50 divided by 2 is more complicated. It's 25. So how does that apply to something like 58 divided by 2? Well, we could think of it, we kind of wish this 5 was even. We could think of it as 40 plus 18 divided by 2. And that way you could do 40 divided by 2 is 20, and 18 divided by 2 is 9, and you get 29. Now, as I mentioned, doubling and halving, those are skills just in their own right, but they are related to, there's a relationship between the number 2 and 5, which is kind of like, I think, kind of interesting. 40 times 2 is 80. And 40 divided by 5 is 8. But 40 times 5 is 200. and 40 divided by 2 is 20. So notice how multiplying by 2 and dividing by 5 have almost the same answer, except, uh, 40 times 2 is 10 times as big as 40 divided by 5. And likewise, 40 times 5 is 10 times as big as 40 divided by 2. Those two things are basically related because 2 times 5 is 10, which means that 2 can be written as 10 divided by 5, and 5 can be written as 10 divided by 2. So, taking this, we could do things like, if I ever want to, 37, actually, let me go like this, 36 times 5. It's easier, maybe, to divide by 2 than it is to multiply by 5. Maybe it's easier to multiply by 5 for this question, but those are two alternatives, because I could treat this 36 times 5 as 36 divided by 2 times 10, or 36 times 10 divided by 2, because 10 divided by 2 is 5. Personally, it's probably easier, since 36 is even, to do 36 times 5 by doing half of 36, which is 18, and the answer is 180. So you can multiply by 5. If you find it easier to divide by 2, you can multiply by 5 by multiplying by 10 and dividing by 2, or by dividing by 2 and multiplying by 10. You could, if you wanted to go the other way, treat it as times 10 divided by 2 and get 360 divided by 2 is 180. Maybe you like that way better, because at least the 360 is like the big number, whereas maybe you forget to multiply by 10 at the end of this one. Either way, multiplying by 5 can be accomplished by dividing by 2. Now, 180 divided by 5. Now, I'm sure that multiplying by 2 is easier than dividing by 5. But they are equivalent, because divided by 5 is the same thing as dividing by 10 and then multiplying by 2. So, if you want to do 180 divided by 5, you could basically do 180 divided by 10, which is 18, and 18 times 2 is 36. So that's like a little just relationship I wanted to just show you. When we haven't built up to the big tricks, those are coming. But for now, maybe you didn't know that there was this relationship between 5 and 2, because 5 times 2 is 10. And if you're good at doubling and halving things, you can also be good at multiplying by 5 and dividing by 5, because multiplying by 5 can be accomplished by halving, by dividing by 2, and dividing by 5 can be accomplished by multiplying by 2 and then dividing by 10. I'm sure multiplying by 2 is easier than dividing by 5. I'm not so sure that dividing by 2 is easier than multiplying by 5, but they do get you the same answer, and that's the second video in this series.